So before you play Sparking Zero, I know a big topic of discussion for most people are standard controls versus classic controls. And I think this is extremely important this time around. So I have some major things I do want to get perspective on so you can make the best decision for yourself. I personally went with classic and found it out to be great, but there are some big differences that are key to highlight between them. So you guys can decide ultimately which is the best for you. With classic controls, the game will be extremely close to the old school Tenkaichi control format, which is awesome. But in order to do specific defensive maneuvers, such as perception, keep in mind you'll have to press triangle and circle together to execute this. And revenge counters, you'll have to double tap L1 to execute those. Whereas with these standard controls, it completely streamlines those inputs, changing them from 2 button combinations to a single button press. You'll see that the circle button is straight up dedicated to being a perception button, making those easier to pull off in combat when in the standard controls. Also, the block button has been moved to R1, and the revenge counter is just a single right stick press instead of it being a double tap input. It may seem minor, but this is actually a huge deal for a lot of people because sometimes a combination input could be difficult to consistently land in battle. And also, if your inputs are not clean enough, it could read as a single guard since block is set to circle on classic mode. I will say that the standard and classic controller differences sort of reminds me of Street Fighter 6 with modern controls versus classic, but not entirely, because in Street Fighter this completely affects the offensive routes for characters, making playing them and executing combos a lot easier. But in Sparking, it's more so simplifying the ease of using defensive mechanics when you're choosing standard versus classic. And for some people it might be more consistent. In this game, it's going to take a few of you guys some time to get used to because it is extremely fast-paced and can be overwhelming for newcomers. But don't worry, the community has your back. Dragon Ball Sparking Zero is the return to Tenkaichi that fans have been waiting 17 years for, and I strongly believe this is the greatest Dragon Ball game ever created, and will provide countless years of playability thanks to the custom battles, character depth, character roster, and of course online multiplayer support. We got a lot of exciting non-spoiler stuff to talk about in this video, but I will keep you guys fed with other content that I could upload in the meanwhile after a few hours from now. From tournament battles, multiplayer battles, as well as rage moments from super hard episode alternate challenges. You're going to want to hit the subscribe button and notification bell so you don't miss out on any of that, guys, and help raise that 38% even higher. We got a lot of Dragon Ball content on the way, especially guides too. Keep your eyes peeled for that. Now, let's get into this review. Before receiving my copy, I took the time to return to the older games to familiarize myself with the controls, and setting this game to the classic controls does feel like a dream. I didn't lab a whole lot in the older games, I just wanted to familiarize myself with the movement so I could spend less time getting acclimated to it. And yes, most of the old games combos do work in this game. I'm not exactly amazing at them compared to Devil Artemis or Grandmaster Hawk, but over time we will get the sauce. However, there are defensive mechanics that they introduce that can prevent the longer combos from continuing if you properly execute them when needed, which I think is a great addition because newcomers to the series are going against older veterans who know how to string together 99 plus hit combos are not going to have a great time. But my point in mentioning the defense specifically is relating to the computer opponents because they have an incredible sense of difficulty, almost to a point where it feels kind of overtuned in some ways, but let me explain. Difficulty in this game seems to be based on how often the CPU will read your inputs and counters. They use these defensive mechanics to perfection, and well, almost too perfect at times, but its difficulty is inconsistent because a computer that will be giving me a hard time in almost every match trying to combo them, they will allow you to fully key charge to max out and go into sparking, even when you're just standing in front of them charging up. They won't even perform an action or try to interrupt you. At the very most, they'll throw out little key blasts or they'll rush at you, but they won't even attack you. They'll just sit in front of your face and let you do it. Like a traditional high-level AI and even a real player would just super dash immediately to try to land a hit on you to stop you from charging up. So borderline in harder fights, you could actually just spam charge sparking over and over again to really beat down the CPU and end matches quickly because they don't react to it as often as they should, in my opinion. But the best thing about this is that when you're in melee combat, it gives you an extreme crash course in defense, learning to properly integrate revenge counters and perception while making you a god at Z counter timing. Because I can tell you right now, my day one Z counters were not there, and now a few days later, I'm able to get the last word on the AI. But you gotta get good at that stuff because if you don't, the CPU is just gonna have their way with you. And also make most of those 30-hit combos that you practiced impossible to get past 5 or 6 hits. This was my experience the first couple of hours, and it was frustrating, but after learning, I'm extremely grateful. So I just want to give you guys a heads up for those who are not going to go online immediately. The computer, enemies, defense, and their use of those mechanics at times will be godlike. So definitely hit that tutorial with Piccolo and Gohan and properly learn all of what the game has to offer. Multiple times if you have to. The main menu has a ton of charm as you cycle through it. You're going to see Goku constantly interacting with everybody and the voice dialogue quips can trigger. After a while, it can get kind of annoying and laggy even when you try to quickly cycle through them. The first menu swap makes it seem like you have to wait for the entire animation to play out before you can actually press it again to go to the next side. But you can actually spam through it at will. However, this does make the game kind of laggy. My version of the game has the Ultimate Upgrade DLC pack, which gave me a huge starting roster to begin with, but there's still many characters you can unlock from the shop by using Zenny, which you earn Zenny from completing challenges for Zeno and Whis. You can earn a lot of Zenny from winning tournaments or completing story episodes too. And I don't know when it happened, but sometime during my playthrough, I noticed the shop updated and added more characters for me to be able to purchase and unlock. Like Baby Vegeta and other GT characters started to appear, and they were not there at all previously. Also, you can earn characters from tournament fights, it seems. I was awarded Gogeta at the end of a tournament match, but this was disappointing because I already unlocked him from the shop. So I was hoping if this were to happen, I would get a bonus reward or something instead. Maybe it was a glitch, who knows, but I hope the rewards are a little bit more spread out. The easiest tournament to cheese for more money is the Yamcha games, of course, which will choose your character for you randomly, but I noticed after my third run through of it, I started to get less Zenny over time. Also, in this version of the game that I have, I also got a free wish from Shenron and Super Shenron, which you can use to unlock more characters, request more Zenny, and once you use up those free wishes, you have to then earn Dragon Balls again from Whis and Zeno's challenges, which you complete most of them by just playing the game and using other characters. Some challenges are very easy, as selecting Vegeta 5 times or performing a super attack 10 or 20 times. A lot of passive things, really. And custom battles are going to be the lifeline of this game for quite a long time. We already know there's thousands of different dialogue options to input, but the grammar can be a little off at times, which is hilarious, and I really like that about it. It's sort of like Mad Libs for those who grew up in my generation. We have a world library of other creator custom battles that you can actually upload, but keep in mind, you do have to complete your challenge at least once before you can upload it, so you can't create an impossible challenge. It has to be at least doable to some extent, or you gotta have some skills. We also have bonus battles, which are custom battles that the devs created for us just to see an idea of how these play out. I've gone through and completed quite a few of them to get an idea of how they work. I really enjoyed the Strongest Challenger one, where your team basically has to take out a fully overpowered Jiren with a boatload of health. The Powerful Rivals one is where Cell is revived and he has to help out Goku with defeating Spopovich, Dabura, and Babidi. It's kind of hilarious when you read the dialogue from Cell. It really is kind of out of character for him with his actions and responses, and this is exactly what you can expect from these sort of things. So the creativity is something I can't wait to experience personally in this, and I hope you guys make your levels so that you can share them to me as I try to tackle them and knock them out. Now, I'm not the most creative person when it comes to designing levels and things of that nature, but shout outs to the people who are. And I believe that as this game continuously grows, it's going to be adding more to this mode that we can get supported and create even crazier episodes. When you're trying to design one, you can do a simple episode or create your own from the very beginning. Simple episode usually just gives you a basic dialogue structure to go through, and you can just pick up and play a match while customizing various details of it. But when you create a brand new one, get ready, because this actually took me over an hour and I still haven't even fully finished it yet. I present to you guys a love story between Vegeta and Toppo. Get ready for a lot of this. This dialogue is generally safe. There's a lot of flexible routes to make the characters really shine. You can create 5-shot scenes for the intro, the ending if you win, and then ending if you lose. And aside from that, you can customize the objectives to trigger different conditions that can take effect in battle if they are met, which can also change the way that fights do play out. Enemy difficulties can also be scaled up as well, so there is a decent amount of variety to this. Now, the main thing that I really love about the episode story content are, of course, the alternate paths of where you can deviate from things that happen within the show and manga. Now, I'm not going to spoil them for you guys because there are some really dope things that they do with the what-if scenarios and alternate routes. I haven't seen them all for myself just yet, but Dragon Ball fans are going to have big smiles on their faces. And I know we're talking like spoilers because everybody knows the story of Dragon Ball, but these alternate routes really do some pretty awesome things, and I would not want to take that away from you guys. I will say my only gripe about this game are the cutscene to slideshow story ratio. It feels like since Budokai 1 did full cutscenes, no other Dragon Ball really feels the need to do this, and instead they'll take a minimal story text or slideshow approach for most encounters, which really bothered me since Budokai 2. I get why they do it. It's to save time, speed up development, and use less resources for budget. Plus, there's hundreds of Dragon Ball games out there. We all know the story, so designing cutscenes for this can get pretty tiresome, I can only imagine. But I thought that since custom battles were going to be using this slideshow element for the most part, that maybe the main story would not do that as much. But no, main story actually blends the two and mostly uses the slideshow when going through it. And when it's an animation playing out, the movement can be kind of weird and minimal, but I will say that the first person camera feature is really cool, but only in certain shots. Because in some shots where it's just non-stop talking of Goku Black, it's kind of like, okay, why is this even an option? We're not doing anything here. But this shot of Goku being squeezed by the Great Ape Vegeta though, is a perfect example of why this stuff is pretty cool, and I think more moments like this are going to make this camera option really cool to come back and check out for each playthrough. Gives you a really cool perspective. During my playthrough, there also was an update and the online multiplayer finally became available. Ranked is still down for maintenance, of course, but I did try to do normal matches of single or even DP battles, but unfortunately, there was nobody to be found in the quick match queue. I was hoping to enjoy at least one match against a real player that won't non-stop spam counters to a frame-perfect degree, but it looks like we're gonna have to wait for the 7th when more people finally have the game. Sparking Zero is a Dragon Ball fan's endless playground and dream game. There's no shortage of things to do between world tournaments, episodes, both legacy and story, learning its deep roster of characters, unlocking them as well, which I do appreciate because there's a lot of games that do launch with every single thing unlocked for characters. And I'm still from that older generation that really does enjoy taking their time to unlock individual things as you progress and get more currency in game. And depending on the version of the game that you have, you already start with a really huge roster of fun and cool characters. So you can just keep on adding to that from unlocking characters in the shop or completing story missions or tournaments to unlock them. And not only that, we of course can expect DLC to expand the roster even more as time goes on. But don't forget, we can experience all of this within an online setting. It doesn't feel real, but rejoice everyone. We're all currently living in the best timeline. I think that covers everything for my time with Sparking. There's still a lot left to go over. I have plenty other videos coming today for you guys, so comment below which character guide do you want to see next, and stay tuned because we're going to be uploading a full controller and best settings guide to get you all squared away when the game starts. Be sure to like the video if you enjoyed and subscribe if you are new. More Dragon Ball content's on the way and you don't want to miss them. My name is BltzZ, and thanks for watching.